to goal or not to goal? That is the question of the week. Well, motherfuckers, I am back. I am joined this week by my co-hosts, Chris, Maul, and Danger. And we are all reunited, and it feels so very good. Thank you all for letting me be out last week. I was, in fact, in England, which is why we had to make the opening for this week sound vaguely Shakespearean, but also Schrodinger's goal is up for debate, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the
Schrodinger's
episode.
goal might be the best way to describe that goal.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm
perfection.
feeling it. And I think you know why. If I can get the thing to load. Ever.
Well, let us kick off this episode as we do every episode with a trivia question from Chris.
All right. Well, we all love a good Cinderella story, right? 63 Mets, the 2019 St. Louis Blues. Cinderella stories are amazing. The LA Kings had a very magical run in 2012, capping their season off with a Stanley Cup. But can you tell me what seed they were?
84th.
Okay.
Yes. Danger got it. It's over.
We're done.
Don't Google
Show's
it,
over.
motherfuckers. I see you.
Do not Google. Do not Google. We only have a little bit of show, so you don't even have to wait that long, okay?
It's not going to take that
long. You can hang in there, and you can use your brain. It's a good exercise. It's a good workout. Just use that, okay? We'll come back. We'll repeat the question before all of us fail to give Chris the answer.
Somebody's already screaming in the comments. And was that
sure they
are? They were number one. This is not a Cinderella story.
Stupid.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're yelling. All right, well, from there, I'm going to take it over, and we're going to talk about some PWHL updates. First of all, we are going to talk about who has made it to the finals. So we have Ottawa and Boston, as well as Minnesota and Montreal. So kind of not really all that different from any of the other two cup chances we've had. A lot of similarities there. The schedule for the Walter Cup playoffs will start on Thursday, April 30th. So y'all have a little bit of time. We're putting this up before this gets started so that you know where to be and when. Game 1 will happen at 7 p.m. against Ottawa and Boston. And then the game 1 for Minnesota and Montreal will be on May 2nd at 2 p.m. That same night, later that night, we'll have game 2 for Ottawa v. Boston. And then game 2 for Minnesota and Montreal will be on Tuesday, May 5th. So in the series between Montreal and Minnesota, games 3 and 4, if necessary, will be hosted by Minnesota and played at Grand Casino Arena. Because I should mention that because of the performance of certain people, the Minnesota v. Montreal games are happening at Place Bell. The Ottawa and Boston games are happening at the Tsongas Center as well. And Game 5, again, if necessary, will be hosted by Montreal back at Place Bell. In the series between Boston and Ottawa, Games 3 and 4, if necessary, will be hosted and played at Canadian Tire Center. In Game 5, if necessary, will be hosted by Boston, and those game venues are yet to be determined. Now, as a reminder, we will be able to see this live on our televisions. So if you are interested, you can always watch it on the PWHL's YouTube channel. It is still going to be there. But also there is local and regional broadcasters through NESN and NESN Plus for Boston games and Fox 9 Plus for Minnesota games. The Scripps Sports Network, select over-the-air networks, and as always, the PWHL's YouTube channel are also airing these live games as well. So be on the lookout for that. Now, next, we wanted to talk a little bit about how this season went overall. I know that we talked about how they had 1 million fans very recently. That was just calculated, but there's some other attendance and ticketing items, that are of importance. So through 120 regular season games, they had 1,116,497 fans for an average of 9,304 per game, which is an increase of 28% over the entire season last year, including playoffs, and 71% increase over the inaugural season, which is, again, pretty friggin' impressive to go up 71% in just 2 seasons. Damn. Average attendance across all primary home venues grew by 35% season over season. And on March 25th, the league surpassed 2 million all-time attendees in its 275th game in league history, which is pretty cool. The league and team partnerships portfolio grew 35% season over season to 81 corporate partners, with notable additions including league partners Arrow, which is Nestle, DoorDash, Global Industrial, and Aveeno, as well as Symetra, Alaska Airlines. Not going to say that because I'm going to get it wrong, but it's a casino and hotel, so good for you. And there's more than 20,000 custom signs created for fans at sign-making stations throughout the PWHL. In merchandise sales, they had in-arena sales double compared to last season. Online merch sales increased more than half, so more than 50%. And Seattle and Vancouver expansion teams delivered standout performances in the inaugural season, generating the highest first-year merchandise sales of any of the teams' leagues to date. For their YouTube viewership, it has streamed all games again on YouTube. During this regular season, live YouTube viewership increased 77% over last season, with viewers tuning in to watch PHL games from 154 countries, which is up from 106 countries last season. So they added 40-something new seasons, which is pretty impressive. Again, Takeover Tour, we had 200,000 attendees across all 16 stops. The DC Takeover Tour at Cap One Arena drew a U.S. arena record for women's hockey with 17,228 fans attending the game on January 18th. The March 18th Detroit Takeover Tour stop, they broadcast its first ever game on national linear television in the U.S. And it was a powerful fan and community hockey driver, and this year engaged more than 10,000 community members. So there's been a lot of really cool stuff throughout the PWHL this year. We are excited for the ladies. We cannot wait to see what these playoffs deliver. I hope you guys are tuning in either on your live networks to show them that we want more live TV for the PWHL, or if you're not in an area where there is an over-the-air network broadcasting it, please, please, please watch it on YouTube so that they know that at least they can retain viewership there. Those numbers do matter and will help us see more cool events next season coming out of the PWHL.
I think with the growth that we have seen this year, the concept at the beginning of the season of them going, oh yeah, we're just going to add 4 teams. We're all like, okay, but like,
Slow down.
no, at this point, 4. Give me fucking 4. I want, by season 4, I want 12 teams, because we've already seen that people will go to the games. The talent's clearly there, and they will sell a motherfucker out. Also, you mentioned the Canadian Tire Center. That's free now. So Ottawa Charge have all the time in the world to use that. They don't have to compete with the Senators anymore.
Very true. Very, very true. And who knows about what they'll have to compete with Montreal. Maybe they'll free up some space, move over there too. Because series,
Bell Center's got a shot to be available.
Yep. All right, let us. My brain just buffered. Let us go into the next topic.
You were off for a week. We'll give you the pass for a week this week,
and in a whole different time zone.
Comes back and hosts. What a legend!
More than just a time zone. I mean,
you were on the other side of the planet,
like zones. In a different world. Yeah,
you were 6 hours ahead of us.
It was only 5, actually.
Is it 5?
Yeah, because
what was it like to be in the future?
Future.
It was all right. It was not bad.
Danger, aren't we currently all an hour ahead of you?
Yeah, we all are in the future.
Yeah, but she was more ahead of it.
Oh, she was the super future. All right.
Yeah, future.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, she was in tomorrow for part.
She was in tomorrow. Well, at some points, she was tomorrow.
Correct.
No, I mean, technically, there's an hour every day that you guys are in tomorrow before I am. So Thanks for
Mm.
pointing that out and making me feel like an idiot, Fen. No. Can you tell I'm used to me giving Fen shit?
Shout out Viking. We love Viking.
Yeah.
No, he's a pain in my ass.
He,
as
oh,
a DM
same, but I
and
love
as a
him.
friend. Like,
Yes. Love him to death, but he's stressing me the fuck out.
Well, on that note, let us switch over to our next topic, which I'm actually really, really excited about. Danger, would you like to tell us about the new initiative coming to the NHL?
and it is a story that I love stories that are about hockey, but then about so much more than just hockey, right? And the NHL is doing that right now because they just wiped out $1.25 million in debt relief for more than 1,000 US veterans and their families. Not a typo, not a PR stunt. Real dollars, real relief, real people are getting a fresh start. This comes with a partnership from Forgive Co., an organization that buys up medical and financial debt for pennies on the dollar and then erases it. Gone, wiped clean, credit marks removed. And this time, the NHL stepped in to make sure that that money went directly to the veterans who have carried the weight of service and the weight of their debt. One of those veterans is specialist Cesar Gonzalez, who is being hosted currently by Jason Robertson. Sorry, Caesar. I will like Robertson for the next 5 minutes. Okay, that's it. That's all I can give you. But he is being hosted by Jason Robertson at Game 5 between the Stars and the Wild. And if you know Robertson, this fits right into what he's been doing for years with his program, JR's Heroes, shining a spotlight on military families, giving them unforgettable game nights, and personally thanking them for their service. I guess he's a good guy. That hurts. But
She's
of
not
that
bitter.
1.25 million. No, Robertson I do appreciate as a player. Ottinger I love. He's a Minnesota boy. Dallas in general.
That's fair. That's fair.
Uh,
Super fair.
of that 1.25 million, $250,000 is going straight to veterans in Dallas, but the impact stretches across the country. Over 1,000 families getting breathing room during one of the toughest transitions anyone can make, moving from military life back to civilian life. The NHL has been leaning into this through its Operation Line Shift initiative, supporting groups like Warrior for Life Fund, United Heroes League, and even helping restore shoreline at MacDill Air Force Base earlier this season, which means a lot to me, my dad being an Air Force vet. It's one of those moments where the league reminds you that the hockey culture isn't just about the chirps, the fights, and the sellies. It's about community. And look, wiping away a single debt can change someone's entire trajectory. Doing it for 1,000 veterans, now that's true impact. So thank you to the NHL, to Dallas, to Jason, and to everyone else who has contributed, because that's a huge, huge thank you to the veterans that certainly deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jinx.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna buy you a Coke.
One day you will, Chris.
One day,
You'll have no
one day,
choice.
you son of a
Yeah.
bitch.
You son
I
of
know
a
his
mean-
favorite color.
You're gonna
How
be
many-
randomly sitting at a restaurant in 20 years, and you're gonna order her food, and she'd be like, "You son of a bitch! It's the Coke you owe me."
Yeah.
I know. It'll
She'll
be
just
like
walk out on the bill.
random one day. Oh, somebody bought you a Coke, and you just see me sitting there smiling, and go,
Like
I
at the
gotcha,
end of
bitch.
Batman.
yeah, I got you, bitch. But I mean, what other leagues are doing this sort of thing right now?
I can't think of
I'm-
any.
I can't think of one, but I also am only, well, I'm not allowed to watch hockey anymore. The Wild only win when I am not watching.
The MLB does a good job with a lot of this stuff. Surprisingly, because
Yeah,
Rob
they
Manfred might
do
be
a
the
lot
most
of-
inept motherfucker I've ever seen run a sports league. And that's saying something because Goodell exists, but Rob Manfred
I
might
was
be the
gonna
worst.
say.
If you don't believe me, go look up things that have happened in Major League Baseball the last 5 years and tell me Rob Manfred's not an idiot. But I just, it's stuff like this that, again, we always preach. This is why the hockey community is the fucking best.
Mhm.
And I don't think there's a contest anymore.
I
I
agree.
think I think one of the great things about this is yes, they have put up $125 million, or sorry, $1.25 million, um,
Mhm.
which is going to create so much more debt erasure than even I think. Well, I'm sorry, 1.25 of debt is being erased.
Yeah.
They didn't,
Mhm.
I don't think they said exactly how much that they donated, because the way this works is
No.
if you buy like if I donate $100 to this company, that's $500 worth of debt. So I don't think the NHL donated $1.25 million, but they donated enough that they could ensure that they could buy up that much debt, which
Right.
Right.
is incredible. But what we're going to see from here is other hockey fans finding out about this company, about Forgive Co., and going and donating what they can, whether it be $25, which could still knock out someone's debt, right? It all goes into the
Right.
same pot that helps somebody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or they donate more than that. Maybe they can donate a couple thousand and really take care of quite a bit of debt. Either way, this is going to be an impact far bigger than this 1.25 million number. And I'm
Oh,
curious if
absolutely.
Forgive Co. will ever put out anything that says, in the weeks after the NHL press release, we saw this much additional site traffic and this many additional donations. Because I really do think, to Chris's point, the hockey community really does show up when they're given an opportunity to, when they're told
Mhm.
about these initiatives, and then when they're saying, we're putting our money here, where are you going to put yours? They do tend to put theirs right there. So I think that this is a really cool initiative. I had never heard of Forgive Co. I'm glad that something like that exists. And I'm glad that especially it's not just the paying off of the debt, but it is removing it from their credit history, because that
Mhm.
is the biggest impact to whether or not they can continue to um, get a mortgage lender to approve them getting back into housing, things like that. Like that's the difference maker, not just the debt being gone, but it being
Yeah.
erased as if it never happened.
And
Right.
Maul, you're a good person to talk about that stuff too, because you work at a bank. So for you, it's like you probably see this stuff all the time, especially working with like credit union stuff.
No, it's true. And I mean, what people don't understand is how easy it is to fuck up your credit
Yeah.
and how long it takes to crawl out of that hole that gets dug quickly. So being able to take debt and just eliminate it like it never existed is
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that programs like this extend past just veterans and it helps other people as well, because I mean, there are so many. I mean, we are all of the age where we were just on the end of the generation that got used and abused and manipulated by credit card companies, and that
Mhm.
screwed a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And now there's a lot more education and stuff around that. So it's a great place to start, but I can't wait to see what more comes from this. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, because it's life changing. I mean, you're literally changing the ability to whether someone can rent or own a house, and
Yeah.
that's impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Housing security is a big issue. Um, eh, eh, Most of us lived through the 2008 housing crisis,
Yeah.
and
Like a
saw the
baby.
Just
burden that it put on our families and stuff.
mhm.
And
So
so we're likely to see another one of those, right?
I was gonna say,
And
with the
programs
economy
like
the way
these
that it
will
is now,
ensure,
this is a big
yeah,
deal.
this is a really big deal.
Mhm.
And yeah, I echo Maul 100% in that I hope it starts coming out for our groups outside of just veterans. But I'm definitely glad that veterans have something, because they so rarely get attention once they're no longer on base and have that on base housing. There's If they fuck their credit in any way, trying to recover from being out in war zones, they're screwed.
Good. Yeah. Good
Well,
luck.
and not just that, but some of the places that they're expected to live and pay for, like,
Mhm.
I know someone personally who, when they were out in California, because they were married, they couldn't stay on base housing. They had to live outside of base, and housing was like $3,800 a month to
Yeah.
Wow.
rent a friggin' apartment
That's
in
absurd.
That's
California,
insane.
and it's
That's
like
not
that's
reasonable.
shameful that like his
Mhm.
partner couldn't be out there with him, but he was still expected to pay that.
Yeah.
Like you can't get
Mhm.
ahead with stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's interesting because, like, a small tangent, like the NFL just changed a huge policy, with veterans. I don't know if you guys saw with the draft that they just did, but the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted someone from the military, and they
Yes.
deferred all of their active duty time till after they're done with their football career, which is cool.
Nice.
That now they're given, because like you have these athletes that play for like the Army and the Air
Army,
Force
Navy,
team, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they predominantly play football, and then all of a sudden they can't go pro or do anything with it. So like they're also making impacts working with the military to allow them to play and gain financial security, through
Yeah.
NFL professional contracts, which is awesome.
I
It's
mean-
gonna suck when you're 40 years old and have to go to war, but at least
Yeah.
you pay millions of dollars,
Well, and think about Basketball Hall of Famer David Robinson played
Mhm.
for Army or Navy. I'm sorry, he played for Navy. Was able to do the same thing during his Hall of Fame NBA career, and that sort of situation. Granted, this is the fucking 90s that we're talking. That was an option for the NBA, but it's cool that that's even an option for people. So, but just again, like this is just such an unbelievable situation. I will say, quick side note, I have the Bruins Sabres game up right now.
Ooh.
During the Canadian national anthem, there was a microphone malfunction. The poor girl singing, the mic
Oh,
keeps
no.
cutting out, and the fans just all sang in unison the Canadian national anthem.
Aw.
I'm
Aw.
waiting to see if this happens for the American national anthem, but her mic keeps cutting out. That's the thing that's
Poor
just
thing.
happened.
I'm gonna laugh if it doesn't, because what is that saying to Canada?
I know, poor Canada. They're playing in Buffalo. Like, poor Canada. It's a stone throw.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that just happened. Sorry to change the subject, but that's literally a thing
No,
that's
no,
just
no,
happening
no,
right
no.
now.
Not at all. That's actually a really good segue. So thank you, Chris. We are going to go into our playoff updates because there has been some updates since last week, which, by the way, I should say, Maul, I'm so glad your voice is better this week from last week's. You still got a little bit of whatever crud that was, but
God,
you
his
sound
voice sounded like a shallow
much better.
grave.
He has a voice.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too, because it was literally gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
bad. It was bad.
It was the last 2 weeks sucked, and I'm glad that it finally feels 100%. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very happy to have you. You were here, but happy to have you back, bud.
it was worse
You
a
were
week
here,
before
but
because I was
partially.
like just getting over a fever,
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Maul, you are gonna, or actually, Chris, you are gonna be our playoff update guy. So why don't you take it over and let us know where we stand?
Well, we have good news for fans of 14 of the 16 teams in the playoffs. Bad news for a couple. Currently, right now, round one, Buffalo Sabres lead the Boston Bruins 3-1. Tampa Bay and Montreal are tied 2 games apiece. The Carolina Hurricanes made very, very quick work of the Ottawa Senators, taking them in a sweep. And the Pittsburgh Penguins are just too goddamn dumb to die. They are... they have somehow battled back 3-2 in that series. On the Western Conference, the President's Trophy winner, Colorado Avalanche, made a very sad and unfortunate end to Anze Kopitar's illustrious future Hall of Fame career as the Kings got swept. Doesn't hurt me as a Ducks fan, but you never want to see a player like Anze go out like that. That's sad. As Danger has mentioned, the Dallas Stars and Minnesota Wild are tied 2 games apiece. Vegas Golden Knights and Utah Mammoth are also tied 2 games apiece. And the Anaheim Ducks lead 3-1 over the Edmonton Oilers, and that could be the series ender tonight. As of time of recording, currently the Bruins and Sabres game's about to start. We will see the Wild and Stars play tonight, as well as the Oilers and Ducks on day of release. So today, for all of you beautiful bastards, the games you have on tap tonight: the Montreal Canadiens will play the Lightning at 7 p.m. 7:30 p.m. you will see the Penguins and Flyers. And at 10 p.m., you will see the Mammoth and Golden Knights. First game's on ESPN2. The other 2 games are on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. Bucks.
A couple of
Thank
games
you.
that could be decided tonight, and one game that could be decided tomorrow, which is very excited.
Yeah.
I mean, as a series being decided.
We can have half
So-
the first round wrapped up tonight.
Our series
Yeah,
better not
which
be.
is pretty exciting, honestly. Tomorrow night, it'll be nice to see who Carolina's competition will be because, well, in theory, Pittsburgh can
Pittsburgh's
still
staying
pull it out.
alive. Like they are.
Could.
They have tried everything to give this away, and somehow
They really
come
have.
back. My dad was telling me, because my dad's a Penguins fan, for those that are new around here, and he was
Yeah.
like, the Penguins got lucky in this last game because of some crazy bounces and the goalie kicked the puck in. I was like, hey, they don't ask how, they ask how many.
How many?
And that is the only important thing. But I mean, honestly, so far we've had an amazing playoffs. We have 3 separate series that are tied at 2 apiece.
Mm-hmm.
One
I
of
do
which I
want to
didn't
point
expect.
out
I did not expect Utah and Vegas to be tied.
tonight's game with Bruins and Sabres is on HBO Max, so no blackouts. So a lot of the games are
Yeah.
no longer are not blacked out if they're on streaming services. So keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
It's currently on TNT, and it's also on HBO Max, which is cool. The TNT TBS games, as well as if you have the ESPN app or Disney Plus, fucking all your
Most of them,
ESPN
yeah.
games are available also without blackouts. So let's say there's an overtime game. I actually went through this recently. The Hurricanes and Senators went into overtime, and the Ducks game started late. I actually watched on the ESPN app instead of on terrestrial TV. But I like that you've got 2 options. And we talk about, and yes, with ESPN owning the rights to like the packages for it, it's a lot easier to find the sports unless they're on like the NHL network or TNT. But it's either ESPN or TNT.
True.
Which is great. So yeah, honestly, overall, I've been watching a lot, as much as I can. Obviously, the playoffs starting around WrestleMania season was tough. And obviously a lot of local racetracks are starting now, but I've been watching as much as I can. And the NHL playoffs, man, Stanley Cup playoffs are just different. There's no sport that does playoffs like hockey. And that's just a fact.
Yeah. Well, I am really looking forward to getting some more decisions. I am so sorry to any Kings fans and to any Senators fans who got swept. Sucks to be you. Really does.
But it doesn't. You guys suck.
Yeah. They do suck. Do we think that we've seen some rumors about Brady Tkachuk maybe trying to shop around and leave Ottawa? How do we feel about that? We think
Do
that's
you
going to
blame
happen?
him? Do you blame
No.
him?
Better not fucking
This
try
team
to
has
hold
let
it.
him
That's all
down
I have to say.
so many times. You go
Yeah.
out, pick up someone like Linus Ullmark. You pick up Claude Giroux. I'm surprised Stützle still wants to be this loyal.
Yeah.
Like, the writing that must be on the wall. Like, yeah, they're making it to the playoffs, but you got swept. You got fucking embarrassed. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I'd be the fuck out on the next train out of the capital.
Oh yeah, absolutely embarrassing.
Gone.
Yeah.
I've seen
it's
rumors of
not-
him in Florida, but it's like, you got to actually give something up for him. Because
Yeah.
whether we like him or not, Brady Tkachuk's numbers tell me you're going to have to actually give shit up. And
Yeah,
you
I
think
don't
there are a
like him.
bunch of rats in Florida now? Just wait until both Tkachuk boys play for the same fucking team.
With
Yeah.
Marchand,
With Marchand, with fucking... Oh, no, they don't have Dylan Cousins. Dylan Cousins is in Ottawa.
Mhm.
But
So-
with Marchand, yeah, bunch of rats for sure.
oh my god.
They only showed up one game though. Like realistically, game
overtime
2 where they went into OT. That's the only time they showed up. Game 3, they it was 2-1, but I really don't think that they made an appearance. That's embarrassing.
How do we feel about this Buffalo-Boston situation? I mean, Boston got embarrassed 6-1 in game 4. Are we
Yeah.
expecting this sort of output now from Buffalo, considering where they've been for the majority of the season, or are we still kind of a little surprised that they're playing this well this season?
Oh no, definitely still surprised in Buffalo for sure. Not surprised in Boston. A 6-1 appearance for them seems
It got
par for the course in the
fucking
playoffs.
dog walked.
Yeah,
I was
pretty
telling
bad.
Maul before we started recording, I had 2 different friends at that game. One of them, it was his first Bruins game in 7 years, and he goes, "Yeah, I really
Ooh.
picked a bad one to go to."
Yeah,
It's like, my guy.
yeah. No, that's
Colorado
painful.
sweeping. Colorado sweeping made a lot of sense.
It did. I feel bad for LA. I mean, they were the first 2 games, it was 2-1. So
Yeah.
at least they were kind of there, you know. But then that 4-2, they just lost the same, which is kind of what I'm projecting to happen to Boston as well. You've got dog walk 6-1. I don't know if you're recovering from that. I think we're going to see a very similar situation where they went 4-2 and then 5-1 to end it.
And they're in Buffalo, and that
Which-
place has been fucking hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say personally, I am shocked by Anaheim. I don't know who the fuck
Yeah, I
this
know.
team is, but where have they been all season?
Yeah, they've been there. You just haven't been seeing them. The rest of us have. We've been here.
Yeah,
We knew.
Well, the problem with
Um,
Anaheim is they're very
we knew.
inconsistent. And I think we're
Buffalo-
seeing. There it is. Buffalo just scored.
Yeah,
Yep.
Buffalo just got a goal on a power play, so Bruins deserve that.
Well,
I was telling Maul, and obviously with me being a fan of a Pacific Division team, I see this more, but this is not even fucking remotely the same Edmonton Oilers team we've seen the last couple of years. Not
Yeah.
even close. They are sloppy in line changes. Their defense doesn't know what they're doing. They can't figure out who they want to start in net because Ingram has struggled. Jari has struggled. Like, McDavid has like 1 point in this series.
mhm.
That's it. 1 or 2 points. That's it. Your
Yeah.
number 1 player is not producing. They've given
No.
up so many goals on transition. And I say in transition, like, immediately D gets it because I'm like, hold on, just lacrosse jargon.
Yeah,
But, like,
yeah.
bad line changes have led to odd man rushes that have led to goals. Like, this is not the team we saw last year. What the
No.
fuck happened? Because their roster really hasn't changed.
No, there hasn't been many, but I I don't know if it's a curse. I don't know if it's them not really wanting it. They claim to want it. We all know Draisaitl and McDavid definitely talk about how much they want it, but they're not. There's some element missing there, and I don't know if it is. I don't want to call it a leadership element because I do think that McDavid is, by all accounts, a good leader, but he is not able to incite them to do more for some reason. Like
Yeah.
he's just the kind of leader who's like, yeah, I'm going to tell you guys that we should absolutely be playing better than this, but then I'm going to take it on my back and get us as far as we can. And it's like that clearly has proven time and time again that that's not enough. You know, we need more than that.
But he
So-
hasn't done that at all in this series, which is the insane part. They've relied on Draisaitl,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
and it's hurting them clearly.
Very curious to see what happens with y'all tonight. The game is at 10 p.m. Not last night's, Sunday night's game was a game filled with controversy.
There you go. We softballed that one up for you, Maul. You could just
Yeah. I'll lay the groundwork a little bit and say that in games 2 and 3, the Ducks were handling their shit, winning 6-4 and 7-4 respectively. And then game 4, the Oilers decided to show up a little bit, or maybe the Ducks fell down on the job. Who's really to say?
they
but it-
blew a bad defense, and
Yeah.
Dostal kind of there was nothing Dosty could have really done there. It
He
was
pooped his
just bad
pants.
defensive matching. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. But that meant that it was a 4-3 overtime winner. And Maul, why don't you take it from here?
So for this week's offside opinion, I kind of want to talk about that overtime goal because there's a lot of controversy over it.
Mm.
And I feel like it was a bad call. I genuinely feel like, me personally, if the puck hadn't stopped moving before it touched the stick, it would have been an easy call to make. But I think because the puck stopped right underneath his skate, it is so hard to call that. And, you know, a few of us were talking before the recording tonight that shame on the NHL for not doing more to remove the opportunity for stuff like this to happen. One of the things we talked about is, why don't they have a sensor between the post and the puck? Where if the puck fully goes through the sensor, you don't even have to think twice, you know? I mean, look at Major League Baseball. They have friggin' AI cameras that detect
They
pitches.
just added that this year. You could challenge a pitch
You know?
to decide VAR, which is a very big thing in tennis, very big thing in soccer, volleyball.
Yeah, so they use those if they want to challenge the official's decision. And the very first time it was used, it overruled the official. So I hope in the offseason, the NHL invest in technology to stop stuff like this from happening, because a controversial call like this just made or break could make or break your season. Literally, we're about to see it tonight. Like, if the Oilers lose tonight, no one is going to not say it was because of that call. Everyone's going to put it because of that call.
See, I disagree with that because the Oilers have played like dog shit.
The
There's
Oilers
no
have played
reason
like
why they
dog
should be
shit.
behind 3-1 in a series, and then you're gonna place
But
it
they
on
would have
that.
been, but they would have been 2-2 depending on that game. You know what I mean? So it's like they're not getting swept like the Kings and the Senators. So, you know, there's still kind of a fighting chance in there for them, but potentially that was a bad call. And again, because of the way the puck looked on the camera, and you know, I'm gonna put some pressure on Chris. Here's the image of what the referees and, you know, the war room looked at, right? That's a hard call to make because, like we were talking about it earlier, if you zoom in on it, it's super pixelated. You can't clearly see where that red line is.
Well,
But my camera can zoom in a quarter mile away on my cell phone and see friggin' a deer fart, you know? Like, what
so
the hell?
this is an even bigger issue than, so if you're looking at just that image and we are to take that camera as true, if you are to do some mathematics and determine the circumference of the puck and where the line is, it's clearly over the line and it's fine. The issue is parallax. So based off of where the camera is, it's actually at the back crossbar, not the top crossbar. So it's not a straight down view. It's actually coming from a side view, which means it's shifted a little bit. That can potentially alter whether or not there is white gap between the puck and the red line, or it could not. It really is, it's unclear as to whether or not that would make a difference in this specific case because of the nature of the angle. So it's really, really hard. It's hard to put this on a call from that view.
Yeah.
But if that view is the only view you have and you have team members on ice saying it went in, and refs, like there was a debate there, it was basically challenged. The only opportunity they had was to go off of camera view, and off of camera
Right.
view, if I'm looking at that, I'm going to call that in and good. And as
Right.
long as
Well-
they're sticking with that being the metric across the board, I think that that's less of an issue if there's consistency there. However,
Yeah.
I do think that they should increase their technology budget so that at the very least in playoff level games, like I kind of don't give a fuck about the rest of the season. It really doesn't,
Right.
unless you're in a really tight wild card race, it doesn't make that much of a difference. This happens so infrequently, something as insane as this. But in playoffs, there should be no question as who's a winner and who's a loser.
Yeah, well, and I think that's where like the question of the offside opinion comes from, is like this is such a controversial, like 1% of a 1% call that, you know, again, it would have been an easy call had the puck stayed in motion until it touched the stick, but because that puck came to a rest
Right.
and didn't move, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you know what I mean? So I don't know, what do the rest of you guys think about that?
I'm a Ducks fan, so I'll go last.
I think it's a goal. I think it's easily a goal.
Yeah, again, the angle is what makes it hard and because you can't see it. But I think if you're doing, if we're judging the angle is true, and we're doing mathematics of the roundness of the puck and where the edge of the
Yeah.
straight line is, there's very clearly white there.
Yeah.
You just can't see it because of the skate blade. but the issue is that that might not have been the angle, and that's why the controversy comes in.
Which I get. I mean, I don't think people are wrong for questioning it. I just think it's
It's such a pivotal moment in the series that you're never going to make the right call in a situation like this.
Right.
And that's why I'm leaning towards like the NHL needs to have the technology to alleviate stuff like this from happening and just remove it entirely from ever being a problem. And like, you know, like we were saying earlier when we kind of talked about the idea, like every goal can use that technology. So whether it's controversial or not, like you don't have to think twice about if a goal went in. If the puck crossed that sensor or however they decide to do it, you know, this is just like a quick, you know, idea.
Right.
If it completely crosses the center, you know for a fact without any reason of a doubt, you can't challenge it, you can't argue it, you can't do anything. It's a goal, period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, again, what the MLB did, where if you challenge that, whatever the ruling is on that is final. It's set in stone. You can't argue that. That's it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chris, you're last. What is your opinion, Mr. Duck?
So, as someone who watched this whole scenario play out, I saw 30,000 different replays before they even set this in motion. Technically, by rule standing, it should have been called no goal because of the skate blade being obstructing the view of the line. That is per NHL rule. Now, I understand where people are coming from. It's a very big deal. If this were a regular season game, no one would give a shit. It's playoffs. And I'm not going to say, oh, well, this series could have been tied 2-2, because I watched that game. And there's a very real chance that Anaheim scored again in overtime because of the way that they were playing offense and just how poorly Edmonton played through the entirety of like the end of that game. Now, the Darnell Nurse getting his stick involved. Okay, but let me just remove that situation from this all by saying the puck was well over the line before he even touched it, and he tried to hit it back out of the net. So any movement of the stick completely negates any sort of like foul play or anything like that, because it's a defensive player trying to get the stick back or trying to get the puck back out. If you like D said, like Danger said, if you use your deductive brain and you look at that picture, yes, it is obstructed, but let's be real with ourselves. It's very obviously over. Now, should that have been called a good goal on the ice? Probably not, considering where the refs actually were located. They essentially at first went off of Ryan Poehling screaming the puck is in. But because they did that, at that point, when you call it a good goal, you need like irrefutable evidence to overturn that. There was none. Now, if that was on the other side, if they called it no goal and reviewed it, they would have needed irrefutable evidence to change that. That's how all of that works in any situation. Like Maul said, the problem is this is such a gray area situation that no matter what call you made, someone's going to be upset about it. I get the frustration of Oilers fans. As a Ducks fan, Oilers fans, I understand. I absolutely understand your frustration. I get it. But if you look at that, look at that picture, are you really going to sit here and tell me that that puck is not past the line?
Yeah.
Yes, you don't get a good view because Tristan Jarry's skate's in the way. And he's the fucking goalie. Like, his skate, that happens all the time. But it's because it's such a big deal. And because of the situation that Edmonton is in now, But hindsight's 2020, right? We could make this call 10 different ways, but it's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame anyone on this. I don't think this is, oh, well, the NHL's responsible for this and they should have had this technology. This is a fucking 1 in a million scenario that
Agreed.
you don't plan on this shit ever happening. The technology in that is expensive. It's why not a lot of sports leagues are using that. It's why we just now are seeing this in the MLB. And if you want a more accurate read, instead of putting like some sort of sensor in the goal line, put a fucking chip in the puck.
That's what I was going to say too. It's the sensor in the goal line isn't going to work as well because of the ice and the thermoconductivity for a lot of these sensors. It may be impacted by the cold temperature of ice and what they have to keep it at in order to keep it frozen.
The pucks are the pucks have to be frozen, otherwise they don't slide.
Yeah. So it should be a chip in the puck, if anything, or potentially cameras embedded into the goalposts themselves. So like in the actual metal,
which we see
so
in
see a view.
lacrosse now. That's a thing we see in lacrosse now. I don't blame the NHL War Room. I don't blame them for this because this is a human call. What did you want them to do?
Well, clearly Oilers fans wanted it to be overturned and Ducks fans wanted it to be kept the same. So
there's
your answer. That's what they wanted.
Oilers fans, if you're upset about this, you should be upset about the last 3 games that they've played like dog shit. Be upset at your team. Because it's their fault. They were in this fucking situation in the first place. They've played like ass the entire first round. You can't be mad. Like, I get being mad at this call. I understand it. I absolutely understand it. But this is a situation of, oh, well, they lose. If the Ducks win tonight, because anything can happen on any day, we know this for certain.
Right.
They're going to blame the refs for that call? No, blame your fucking team for playing like shit for 4 games. It's on them. Who else is in that situation? The refs put them in that situation? No. They played like ass to get themselves there. So, like, I realize it's a very long-winded response for something that was probably a lot easier, but there are so many factors at play in this, you know? So many different moving parts. I think it's unfair to put blame on anyone for this, because what are we blaming them for, really? It's a human call that, like Maul said, no matter what, wasn't going to be the right call for somebody. So, you know, like, it is what it is. Unfortunately, that's the scenario. And I could say that on my high horse because my team won that. But, like, I've been, for every goal that's gone the Ducks' way, there's been the same amount that haven't. And I understand the frustration.
You know what I'm more mad about? This kind of stuff I don't care about because, like you said, it's a 1 in a million chance that anything like this is ever going to happen again. I'm more mad about the inconsistency for goalie interference calls. Like, if we want to get down into it, if you want to be outraged at something, be outraged at goalie interference, because that's the thing that actually impacts more teams on a regular basis. Like, literally multiple games in a fucking week, not even in a season, in a week, that goalie interference is an issue. So let's shift our anger away from this one-off situation, which, guys, you have to be so honest with yourselves, Oilers fans. Even if you won this, you were not going to advance. You simply weren't. You weren't going to make it to the final rounds.
You gotta, even if you do advance past the first round, you gotta play either Utah or Vegas, who are playing some of the best hockey they've played all season. And if by some miracle you get past that, you gotta play either the fucking Avalanche, the Stars, or the Wild. And you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna fucking humble you. So, like, again, don't be mad at the referees. Be mad at your team for playing so terribly. You made the Stanley Cup Finals last 2 straight seasons. Be mad at them for not being that team anymore.
Yep, agreed. Absolutely agreed. All right, well, I say from there, let's talk about our naughty boy of the week, and then any
We do have one naughty boy. Nikita Zadorov of the Boston Bruins was fined the maximum allowable $5,000 for cross-checking Rasmus Dahlin. It's a bad time in the playoffs for players named Rasmus, apparently. The
Poor
two
Darlene.
fines were both
Poor
against
Darlene.
Rasmus Anderson and then Dahlin.
All right. Well, that leads us to our next segment, which is everybody's favorite segment. Chris, would you like to take us through the
You
next segment?
say, don't be stealing my shit.
I
It
know.
is now time for everyone's favorite segment, the obscure NHL player of the week. Well, on theme with our trivia question, we have a player with the best first name, and I'm not biased when I say this, but Christopher Gibson. He was born December 27th, 1992. I'm like a month older than this guy. In Karkkila, Finland. This left-handed goaltender was drafted 49th overall in 2011 by the LA Kings, which was their first pick in that draft. He played 16 games in the NHL, 4 wins, 5 losses, 3 overtime losses. He had 43 goals against, 3.33 goals against average, and a save percentage of 0.901. He spent most of his career bouncing between the AHL and playing in Europe. At 17 years old, he represented Finland at the 2010 IIHF World U18 Championships in Belarus, winning the bronze medal. He was also selected to the Finnish junior national team to represent in the 2012 World Junior Championships. He turned 19 in that tournament, where it does not say where they finished, but I believe Canada won in 2012, if I remember correctly. His career lasted until now. He is currently playing in the Ice Hockey League, which is a European league that hosts 4 different countries, where he plays for the HC Bozen Balzano. I don't know if that's how I say that. Currently 7 or 8 games in net, 4 wins, 1 loss, 1 or 3 overtime losses. Save goals against average 3.74. So Chris, it hasn't gotten any better for you. But he was he did play some time for the championship winning team.
Woohoo!
In that year.
Very nice. Well, thank you for that, Chris. Do you want to remind us of what our trivia question of the week was?
Absolutely. So we all love a good Cinderella story. The LA Kings made a very magical run in 2012, capping their season off with a Stanley Cup. What seed were they in the playoffs?
I'm going to guess lucky number 13.
Well, I mean, do you think seed-wise, how many teams are on each side? 13 would be way too high. There aren't 13 teams in the Western Conference that make the playoffs.
So there's only 8.
Correct. On each side.
All right. Because I was gonna say sunflower seed, so
I'm saying they're
thanks
13th
for
overall.
clarifying that.
But
So you know what? Maul wins. Sunflower seed's the correct answer. So if you think, what seed were they in the Western Conference
Fine.
bracket?
They were 7th.
Okay.
9th.
3rd.
9th out of
Third?
8.
9th out of 8.
9th out of 8.
9th
8.
out of 8.
I forgot that there's 8. Sorry. I just was going to say last because I feel like this is a last to first kind of situation.
Well, this historic run became the first
80.
time in North American professional sports history that an 8 seed won the championship. The first time
There
in
you
the
go.
history of North American sports that the last ranked team in the playoffs won.
Very nice.
It went
Despite
from
their low
84
seed,
to 8.
they did not lose a single road game until the Stanley Cup Finals, and they led every series 3-0.
Wow.
Jesus,
A player
Jones.
that retired. Imagine leading every series 3-0 and not losing a single road game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's amazing.
talk-
Good for them.
Speaking of players that have had an amazing career, Jonathan Quick won the Conn Smythe that year. His goals against average is fucking bananas. 1.41 in the playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah, the 2012 Kings were an otherworldly force. So yeah,
And now
that's a
they're one of
cool
the first
stat.
ones out.
and now they got
I broke
swept,
a
and
rule.
Anze Kopitar's Hall of Fame career is gone.
No.
Well, y'all, thank you very much for tuning in with us this week to figure out where we are with playoffs. We will be back next week as hopefully every team will have advanced to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Although there is a possibility, I think, that maybe we won't be there, depending on how the rest of these remaining
We
games
might-
turn
we
out.
might not be done with the first round.
We might not be done.
It is
Fingers
insane.
crossed. Please let us be.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely insane
Yeah.
how it's worked itself out.
Yeah.
But
But otherwise, we will see you, Mother Puckers, in the face-off circle next week.